everybody, welcome back to the latest and hopefully greatest edition of the Nanticoke Newsroom with your host, Bob Kalinowski, and my loyal, goofy co-host, Jack the Cat. I know y'all missed him, and he's the only reason you watch, and I'm glad he's sticking around for a little bit. Hopefully. Hey, come here. Anyhow, today's latest and greatest edition of the Nanticoke Newsroom is the talk of the town. The closure, the closure of St Adalberts Church in Glen Lyon, or Adalberts as some say. There's a lot of nostalgia we could talk about in this episode about St Adalberts, but I have the greatest story ever told, which I will tell, about St Adalberts in its 135 years of history. It's about a brawl that broke out at the church once, many years ago, that many of you probably have never heard of. I did some research when I heard St Adalberts is closing, so it's the greatest story ever told about St Adalberts, but I'm not going to tell you right away. You got to stick around. So why is the closure of St Adalberts Church in Glen Lyon important? Well, there's a lot of history in this church. Again, it's celebrating its 135th anniversary this year. Another reason is I love Glen Lyon, as you all know. And third, there's a plaque in the front of the church that has the name Kalinowski. And I always was wondering, who is this Kalinowski guy? My whole life, I saw the plaque in front of this church, and I never knew who he was or what it was until this week when I actually did some research on newspapers.com. So, in summary, St. Adalberts is closing in January of 2026. The diocese announced this week. St. Adalberts now is currently the only Roman Catholic church in Newport Township, and obviously the last in Glen Lyon. So what's going to happen? Well, since 2011, St. Adalberts was part of Holy Spirit Parish. There's two other churches that were part of under that umbrella. One was St. Mary's in Mackinac, and the other St. Martha's in Fairmount Springs. What's going to happen to St. Mary's after St. Adalberts closes? St. Mary's is in Mackinac is going to get wrapped under the umbrella of St. Faustina in Nanticoke, my church right up the street, and St. Martha's is going to join Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Hunlock Creek. I did a newspaper story about it the other day, or today, in today's paper. It was on the front page. I inadvertently said it's the last Catholic church in Newport Township. I was mistaken. There is a Ukrainian Catholic church also in Newport Township in Glen Lyon. This is the last remaining Roman Catholic church. Again, this is the end of an era. That was the headline in the paper today. There's all of us know someone, our relatives, anyone from Nanticoke, Newport, had baptisms, first Holy Communions, confirmations, weddings, and funerals at St. Adalberts. All of our ancestors had ties. And this is a really crazy, another funny story. I don't know if it's funny, but I will reveal it now because it's like 100 years old. My grandparents got married at St. Adalbert's Church in 1942. But guess what? They got married in the basement of the church. And why was that? My grandmother, my bocce, was pregnant at the time. And so they had to get married in the basement of the church. I guess being pregnant before you got married in 1942 was frowned upon. Sorry, bocce, for revealing the secret again. It's almost 100 years old. So for generations, St. Adalberts has served the community here in Nanticoke, Newport area through their life and through death. And they've obviously did countless funerals for coal miners, native sons of Glen Lyon and Newport, Nanticoke, who were killed at work in the coal mines, and various funerals for people, soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines that were killed at war. Up to including in 2018, a gentleman who was killed during the 1941 Pearl Harbor attacks They finally held his funeral in 2018 after his remains were finally identified after decades. So let's get down to the brawl. I'm taking you back to a newspaper headline from 1909. The headline, and I'm not even sure what paper it was. Church trouble was the headline. Opposing factions clash in Glen Lyon. The first line of the story. Glen Lyon was the scene of great excitement yesterday. And it talked about a bunch of parishioners were fighting over who would be the new priest of St Adalberts Church. Now, mind you, this was 1909. St Adalberts Church was established in 1889, and it burned to the ground, the original one, in 1908. So they didn't have a church at this time. I'm assuming they were meeting somewhere, probably like the Italian club, to do their church business, and that's where this fight might have happened. So what happened is these guys were fighting over who's going to be the new leader of the church. And this is a line from the story. A man was completely rendered unconscious from being struck by a stone. So they took... I told my friend this the other day. Glen Lyon was wild even back in 1909. They fought, literally fought physically over who would be the next priest. So I visited on Monday to do the story for today's paper, Tuesday. And I wanted to take Jack with me, but I didn't think that would be a good idea. So I had ChatGPT superimpose him next to the Welcome to Glen Lyon sign, the former Welcome to Glen Lyon sign. I'm pretty sure that thing was stolen over the years, and it's not there now. And I also did a ChatGPT of Jack outside the church. I talked to a resident who lives near the church, Mrs. Howell. I knew all three of her daughters, all three lovely ladies who I know decently well. She talked about how parishioners of Glen Lyon increased donations over the last couple of years, knowing that the church was in financial trouble, and it was pretty inevitable that this day would happen. She lives very close, but other people live even farther away used to walk to church. Now they don't have that option. With no Roman Catholic churches left in Glen Lyon or Newport, parishioners have to make a decision whether they want to find a new denomination, maybe, but I'm assuming they're going to go to St. Mary's in Mackinac, which is 4 miles away, or St. Faustina in Nanticoke, which is around 6 miles away. So while I was there, again, I took some pictures of that plaque that I was talking about in the front that has the Kalinowski name on it. It was I guess, the dedication of the Virgin Mary statue in 1942. It's written in Polish. I tried my best to translate it via Google Translate, but one of my friends from Glen Lyon, a native of Glen Lyon, the resident expert there, she actually asked some of her friends or family in Poland what the saying says, and it says, according to her, "O Mary, in your honor, offered by the children of Mary." And then what I found out is this Kalinowski name on that plaque was Reverend Joseph Kalinowski. So at the time that Virgin Mary statue was dedicated, Reverend Joseph Kalinowski was one of the priests at the parish. I doubt there is any relation, but just as an FYI, that was in 1942, the year my grandparents were married at the church, in the basement of the church. So a Kalinowski probably didn't let two Kalinowskis get married in the regular church because my grandmother was pregnant. While I was minding my own business in the middle of the 4-way stop sign in a busy street, taking pictures of this beautiful church, some random girl stopped me and was yelling out the window, "Where did you get shirts like that? Can I get one? Where can I get a shirt like that?" So I had to tell her the story. We started the Nanticoke Newsroom during COVID in 2020. I had these shirts made because I was always busting Glen Lyon. I wanted to let people know I love Glen Lyon. So I had orders out the yin yang for people to buy these. Someone randomly sent this to my house. I have no idea to this day who made this shirt, created this shirt, paid for this shirt, sent me this shirt. But I had orders. I had a graphic designer make some prototypes, and I was going to sell these shirts, you know, donate it to charity or whatever, donate it to something Glen Lyon. So it didn't pan out, but I was telling the girl the story. I'm like, hey, if I decided to do it again and we're going to make orders for these shirts, let's, you know, get in touch. So she's like, I know you. You're the guy I follow all the news on online. And I'm like, I really doubt that. And you know what's coming next. I'm like, I think you are talking about... Come back here, buddy. He wants some treats. I really think that you are talking about Bob Kalobowski, the live action reporter. She's like, no, that's you. I'm like, I don't know. Our names are very similar, and we do similar things. I just get paid for it. I'm not sure if Bob does. No, I'm the different. I'm not.
No?
I'm not. That's Bob Kalobowski, the tow truck driver, right?
No.
You see me on Facebook?
This guy.
The reporter?
Sure. Yes!
No, live action reporter is Bob Kalobowski, not me. I'm Bob Kalinowski, very similar. But what do you think about this shirt?
I love it. So,
you want to get one?
Yes.
How much would you pay for one?
Look, I'm broke.
Oh, okay.
Like 15 bucks?
Oh, yeah, well.
We are in the GL.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. Yes, no, I see you all the time. You covered that building when it burned down.
So did he. I'm just telling you.
I'm
you
trying to be the same person, so.
There's two
That's what I'm going to school for.
Where are you going?
I'm going to school for journalism and media.
And what's your name?
All right.
And if I decide to crank this back up to orders.
Please let me know. Please let me know.
Do you live in Glen Lyon?
No, I actually live in NANTICOKE. I used to live here, though. My grandparents live here. My family grew up here.
Well, what do you think about the church closing?
I actually didn't know it was closing.
That's why I'm here to do the story. Live action reporter.
When is it closing? Do you know?
January. Anyway, she was convinced that I am the person she was talking about. So I don't know if it is, but she just friend requested me before I did this video, so I don't think she was following me on Facebook if we weren't friends before this. So anyhow, that's the story of St Adalberts and Glen Lyon. And hopefully, you know, somehow Glen Lyon gets better. Hopefully, there's better days ahead for Glen Lyon. I'm with you. I love Glen Lyon. And I created a nice little hat to generate and spark that spirit. So I think we should make Glen Lyon great again. And because that was a red color hat that a lot of people probably don't like because it might remind you of Trump's slogan, we also made it on ChatGPT in a blue color as well. So let's make Glen Lyon great again. Whether you're on the red side, the blue side, let's unite and make Glen Lyon great again. This is the Nanticoke Newsroom signing off. I don't have Anna's closing, but as I always say, stay safe out there, especially if you're traveling to Glen Lyon. All right? So you had to get a Glen Lyon bus in there at some point. All right, talk to you guys all soon. Watch, we'll do another episode as soon as possible.